All right, so if you did oh no about coming away from Parliament, we will go back there a little bit later on in the program. But it was an intense day today as the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services grilled prison management company G4S on their conduct in the elaborate escape of Thabo Bester from the facility in the early hours of a May morning last year. While at pains to defend their track record and their conduct around and since that audacious event, they explained Bester's laptop as authorized for him to conduct his graphic design studies, a concession the committee railed against in view of his conviction of finding and luring his Facebook victims. Bester's moving to the now controversial cell 35, from where his escape was ostensibly mounted, was because of the fears he had reportedly had for his life from a prison gang, which he said he could not afford to pay off. But right now, there is an official bid being launched in cooperation with authorities in Tanzania and their South African counterparts to get Bester back to South Africa, along with his accomplice, Dr Nandipha Magudumana. For the latest, let's take you live to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and that's where SABC News correspondent Daniel Kijo is standing by. Daniel, another explosive day here in South Africa in terms of revelations on the story, making us all the more keen to get Bester back here to answer important questions. But on your side, police were expected to give an update today. Has that happened? Will it happen?
Yes, thank you so much indeed. If it is a series, it is absolutely captivating. Not just South Africans who are following this, even in Tanzania, it is viral. Tanzanians are really fascinated by the story and even questioning how it all happened. Now, getting straight to the point, talking about the Tanzanian police and exactly what they've revealed with this issue, this case after catching him this Friday, about 10 kilometers from the Namanga border, Kenya border. They have not released much. Over the last 3 days, SABC, we have been trying to get the chief spokesperson of the Tanzanian police to speak. They issued a statement over the weekend, indeed, confirming that they have apprehended Thabo Bester and he is in Arusha cell. Now, we have been trying to find out, has he been moved from the Arusha cell to Dar es Salaam, where the Interpol police and the South African security agency officials were, holding the meetings. Tanzanian police, I spoke to a mid-level PR officer in the force who said, you know what, Daniel, we will not be able to release anything because this is truly an Interpol case. It's an international police case, and we don't want to interfere with those operations because it spans multiple countries. It spans between governments. So it is something that the police in Tanzania have refused to reveal and have left most of the information to be disseminated by the Interpol task force.
Well, that was going to be my closing question to you, but I guess you've answered it around this dearth of information on exactly where they are and what is expected to happen next. But I want to quickly put this to you, Daniel, our international news editor, saying that there is a strong possibility of him being deported tomorrow. And this is from, some of the contacts that we have in Tanzania. What are you hearing about this? We had known there would be these two options, possibly an extradition or a deportation. What are you hearing on this score?
Yes, thank you for that question. I was about to go on and explain that we have indeed, like you mentioned, heard from very reliable sources that they expect Thabo Bester to be transported back to South Africa, possibly tomorrow, and that the South African team would be leaving Tanzania at least by Friday latest. So by hooks or crooks, I think the South African team and Interpol will definitely not leave Mr. Bester in Tanzania. They'll definitely go back with him. But there's been a legal conundrum. What method, what legal mechanics should they use to take him back? Should it be deportation or extradition? Now, both of these have implications. For instance, deportation, you need to prove that indeed he was in Tanzania illegally. And obviously, this is very easy to prove because they had various aliases and they had many passports with them. Some of them they didn't have stamps, so they were not even used. So when the police stopped the SUV and asked them for passport, they were shocked to find that indeed these the trio were in Tanzania illegally. So deportation is straight case. As tradition would have taken a bit longer. It would have needed diplomatic channels to be followed. You'd need to follow the SADC protocol on extradition. You'd need the Minister of Justice from the South African Minister of Justice to write a letter to the Tanzanian Minister of Justice, the governments to collaborate. You'd have to prove that indeed this is the person that the country of origin would have to prove that indeed this is the country they're looking for. So it would have been a long, maybe 2 months, up to 2-year process. So I think the path that probably they're going with is the deportation. That's why we're seeing and hearing these strong reports that perhaps by Friday, Bester, who many people are waiting to face justice in South Africa, will be gone from Tanzania soil to face the hand of the justice system in South Africa.
Tell us a little bit more about this interest, as you say, that it's generated in Tanzania. Initially, this was, somebody pretty much run-of-the-mill, one would have imagined, until all of this information started coming out from the South African side about his daring and elaborate escape, the possible complicity of a multiplicity of officials from the prison, and, an entire network of enablement that allowed him to get across the border.
Indeed, I mean, people are intrigued by the story because, as you know, we've heard this sentence since it broke, that it sounds like a movie, it feels like a movie, it feels like something out of a thriller movie. So, indeed, Tanzanians are very close to South Africans. They love South African culture. Historically, we have ties. So, hearing that perhaps there is a South African who's caught in Arusha, a touristic, region for Tanzania, and a lot of South Africans frequent the northern side of Tanzania, which includes Arusha, Moshi, and Kilimanjaro, has been found. And then when the story kept unraveling, local media picked up on it. A lot of online bloggers are talking about it. In fact, to some shock, some young people actually admire Dr. Nandipha, saying that is true love. You see all these funny comments. So it has left a lot of sentiments between the many Tanzanians online, watching TV, and sort of experts in security. Yeah. Legal experts are debating, okay, this is clearly a very elaborate scheme to get out. But also, does he have accomplices in Tanzania? That is also a question that has to be answered.
And that's the one that gives, I think, a lot of people who are concerned that can he be brought back safely to answer for all of these events that have transpired? That's the one question. But the other on Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, who has, as you say, captured the imagination in some ways of certain people, certain support sectors, I suppose, in Tanzania. It's the same in South Africa. She's, the subject of some intrigue, as it were. Where are her whereabouts? I mean, are they being kept in the same place, in the same facility? What have you learned about this, Daniel?
Yeah, so what we know is that over the weekend they were captured together and taken to Arusha Regional Police Station together. Now, the police, to answer part of your question, that they're looking to ensure that they are transported safely back to South Africa, considering how much information they have on this elaborate web of escape. So the police has made sure that they control the information. Now, in fact, we don't even know if they're already in Dar es Salaam, or will they be exiting Tanzania from the Kilimanjaro International Airport or Arusha Airport, which is an international airport, and they can easily leave Tanzania without having to go through Dar es Salaam, which is the commercial capital. So there's a lot of questions, but indeed security has been a big deal, and the police, I feel, did not want to reveal too much information in the interest of protecting and making sure that they're able to leave the country. Like you said, Dr. Nandipha has been a subject of controversy. Some people say this is true love. Some people think she's a victim as well. Some people think she's smart, but a majority are just astounded at how a very successful successfully looking young lady with a private practice in whatever she's been doing with the beauty stuff is able to be so collaborative in such acts. So indeed, like I said, it is a case that perplexed a lot of Tanzanians, and as these next 48 hours unravel, as he supposedly will leave, we'll find out a little more.
Certainly, the country's expectations on a knife edge in a way to have him and her come back and give account of what transpired. SABC News correspondent Daniel Kijo giving us the latest on Thabo Bester's arrest, the whereabouts of Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, joining us there from the capital, Dar es Salaam.